welcome back to another preview show, Matty. Of course, last weekend was our last home game of March. Of course, it was cancelled. How do you look back on that postponed or cancelled game? Was there frustrations, or was it just a positive that you could now give more lads an opportunity to rest up?
No, I think there's huge frustrations there from our kind of point of view. We've kind of aired out that kind of game to give the guys a few kind of some minutes and some of the Colts lads a bit of a game on kind of home turf in front of their kind of like families and things. So yeah, it was a little bit disappointing. Tried a few guys in new positions and obviously leading into the next kind of like 5 weeks or so. So and obviously it was Six Nations weekend as well. So it would have been great to obviously have the game and then have the rugby club rocking for the Ireland game and obviously the England-Wales game, England-France game as well at 8 o'clock. So obviously from the club's point and obviously from the lads' kind of point of view, it was definitely disappointing not having that game. Yeah,
and obviously that would have been a quite incredible weekend as well for the club with everything that financially they had in place. We now turn our attention on the road and we make the trip to Ilkley, Matty, on Saturday. A long time since we've last played at Ilkley, but when we last played them at Silveroyd, it was a victory for your side. Obviously, you've brought in a couple of faces that haven't played first team or have been in and out of the side, so it's going to be a good opportunity for your team to put themselves up against one of the high flyers in North 1 East.
Yeah, that's right. We know that we've got to kind of come with a performance based. We need to make sure that obviously all the lads kind of who are kind of coming in and fitting in know their roles and responsibilities. But myself and Reddy and Drew and Sam will kind of give those guys their kind of freedom to obviously kind of have a go. But yeah, we're confident and obviously we're coming off the back of kind of 2 losses, which obviously is not great. But we're going to go into the game looking to obviously kind of play some good kind of style of rugby and we know that obviously our defence has to kind of stand up, otherwise Ilkley will punish us all day long.
Yeah, and of course the Vikings are at home as well against Driffield on Saturday. So if you're not making the trip to Ilkley, then there's a game on at Silveroyd. The team that you've picked, Matty, that I've got here, it's Joe Nellis, Richard Scales, Sam Dawson, Will Renard, Will Vaser, Ewan Govier, Ed Hopper, Drew Govier, Alex Rowley, Tom Ratcliffe, Tom Anderson and Gregory Parker on the wings, Joe Marshall and Joe Davies in the centre, Tom Harrison at fullback, Sam Pollock, Matty Ward and Elliot Hutchinson on the bench. These are subject to change, of course. Matty will know full well about lineups being subject to change. But a real good mixture of players who haven't played a lot, those who have played a lot. It must balance itself out really nicely for the side.
Yeah, it does. Like as we said, that we know that obviously we've got the leaders there. So we've got all the leaders around that are going to kind of lift those kind of young kind of experienced lads. Some of them may not have kind of experienced obviously like kind of high end kind of like top kind of quality kind of games before and obviously put under a bit of pressure. And so we'll be looking forward to that. We just need to make sure that, as I said, like we just go through our motions and we do our things right. We can't obviously control kind of how Ilkley are going to play, but obviously kind of playing them from a month ago, we know that obviously we're both kind of teams are the same. Both teams want to throw the ball around and hopefully weather permitting, we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and how important is it, Matty, for you just finally to finish the season now on a high? I know you've come off the back of a couple of frustrating results and a couple of games that have been postponed. You know, the Heath game comes to mind, the Bradford Bingley game, of course, last week. How important is it for you now to finish the season on a high and you know, the lads to play in a confident way that they've played all season?
Yeah, it's huge for us. Obviously, we had that really good kind of period around kind of Christmas and New Year's where we kind of 5 or 6 in a row. And obviously everything was great. What we don't want to do is obviously kind of come into the back end of season when obviously there's not really kind of much to play for. We know we're sitting around that kind of mid-table, but what we don't want to do is just kind of have that kind of bad taste in your mouth where we kind of haven't kind of finished games off or we've let games kind of slide going into the back end of the season. So we want to make sure that, one, we're giving everyone as much kind of game time as possible and seeing how kind of people cope, and some of the younger lads a chance to kind of obviously get a bit of experience kind of going into the back of next year as well. But obviously it's a balance that we all have to try and kind of make sure works between kind of everyone. We don't want to kind of throw players there that are not ready. What we want to do is try and finish the season as strong as possible. But we talk week in, week out, and that is talking about a performance. And if we get a performance and we get a loss and we get beaten by a better team on the day, then obviously we take that. But to go and kind of not giving it our all, or not kind of letting it kind of slip by without obviously kind of putting the effort in, then obviously that's kind of a little bit kind of disappointing.